We have two exemplary speakers to kick off the SCDRP 9th annual meeting. First, it is my pleasure to introduce Craig Harris with the City of Wilmington, North Carolina. Craig Harris is the Emergency Management and Resiliency Coordinator for the City of Wilmington. Craig previously worked in Pender County as the Floodplain Administrator and Emergency Management Planner. Mr. Harris's position was recently created by the City of Wilmington. In this position, Mr. Harris works closely with public safety, planning, and stormwater to respond, recover from, and mitigate against weather-related events, and also to seek funding to build resiliency. Mr. Harris has participated in emergency response and recovery efforts during and after several recent storms, including Florence, Dorian, Isaias, and Helene. Recently, Mr. Harris was deployed to Western North Carolina to assist in the response and recovery efforts after Tropical Storm Helene. Mr. Harris, thank you for joining us today and welcoming us to your beautiful city. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harris. You're welcome to use that as it is.
I'm gonna give it a shot.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Good morning. Is that working? That's working. All right, I get the pleasure to welcome you to Wilmington, but I'm also going to take a little bit of time as I go through this, tell you a little bit what's going on in Wilmington, and I am going to share a little bit of some of the experience in Western North Carolina. I just want to take advantage of that opportunity. But let's start out, it's really an honor and a privilege to be here. When I was asked to be here, I'll be real honest with you, my first thought was no, please no. Emergency management people do not generally like to be in the front. We like to be in the back, let somebody else do that. But as I look around and I see the person, Meredith, that asked me, part of a collaboration that the city does with the university, I really want to support that, and if she feels like I have something to offer, I'm going to give it a shot on that. So again, Craig Harris, Emergency Management and Resiliency Coordinator. You don't find a lot of resiliency in the titles of government, and I'm really happy that the city has seen that as something that they want to do. So my role with the city is it's a multi-hat. So when there is a disaster, we've got a weather event, it's the emergency management hat. I'm an Office of One. I do want to make sure everyone knows that. But Office of One, my job is really to coordinate the activities, understand what resources we need, logistics, anything I can do to move the event forward. And I work very closely with our county, New Hanover County, and I'm glad to see someone from our county here. Quite frankly, when it comes to emergency management, we can't get it done without them. They are invaluable. But I think probably the reason that there's a reason for me to be here is the resiliency work that we're trying to do from a city standpoint. As Heather said, a lot of what I do this is our blue sky time. So I'm out there looking at grant opportunities. I'm looking at collaboration. I'm looking at opportunities to meet and move things forward. 2 weeks ago, my whole grant world was different than it is today. We all know that. We've got challenges. So we're going to have to work more together, more collaboration. And that's a part that I really enjoy and look forward to on it. But when you're talking about making a city, and a lot of, I understand from the map of where people are coming from, resiliency, when you talk about a historic city, is challenging. When you've got a city that is bordered by a river, bordered by an ocean, it presents a lot of challenges. In my line of work, I expect and plan on storms every year, but hope we don't. But in 2024, in the fall, there were two storms that impacted this state greatly. One of them had the dubious name of potential tropical cyclone 8. Does that scare anyone? Potential? Yeah, it was awful. It hit south of where we are with 20 inches of rain. It flooded coastal communities. It tore up bridges and roads. It was unbelievable, and we were not ready. Not because we didn't do planning and so forth. We didn't know it was going to impact us that much. Lesson learned, don't put all your weight on a category. If it's a Cat 1 or a Cat 2, no. No, we need to really reframe things and look at these storms differently. I am hoping that from a National Weather Service, we learn some things that'll help us understand when we might have these ones that, when it says potential, it really means beware. So I'm resetting the way I look at things for storms, and I really wanted that message to get out. So whether you've traveled from down the street, across the state lines, or across the ocean, your presence here today speaks volumes about your commitment to building stronger, safer, and more resilient communities. As we come together in Wilmington, we're gathering in a place with a deep connection to resilience that experienced its shares of natural disasters, including hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods. But Wilmington is more than just a place touched by challenge. It's a living example of a community that understands the importance of preparation, recovery, and growth. It's my belief that resilience starts with education and information sharing. And I was excited in October to be a part of a project that allowed the city to get its first flood gauge. These are, things that give you warnings before, things are flooding. It gives you great historical data, but our very first one in the city. And the gauge came about from a collaboration from our local university, UNCW, Socorro, and was funded by the North Carolina Water Resource Research Institute, North Carolina Sea Grant. But it was that collaboration that brought that first one, and I'm excited that where we put that one was in the north side of our city, where we have habitual flooding and we have underserved populations. Now this center has the opportunity to get warnings and make decisions that will help them out. It's going to help out our first responders, emergency management, utility networks, anything that has any need to travel in areas where it floods. I'm a huge proponent of these. The other storm that hit North Carolina is Helene, and it hit as Tropical Storm Helene. So not hurricane, not Cat 1, but Tropical Storm Helene. So I want to take a minute to share a few of the innovative. I want to leave you with some positive things about what's happened. Helene is tragic, and its devastation is something I can't even put into words. But I saw some amazing things up there that really got me excited, and some I brought back, but I like to share these with you today. So there's 6 of them. You multiple hands there. One of them is they use the state network of flood gauges, and their gauges had a hydrological study on it that allowed them to go, oh, hey, it's coming down bad. When is it going to crest? Well, let me just take that scenario, and then it's going to show me a map where the impact is. So it allowed them to create that scenario before it happened and evacuate neighborhoods, evacuate vehicles, move things. It had a huge impact. The other thing that we saw, and I'm not going to assume that everyone knows everything about Helene, so Helene had tremendous damage to the water infrastructure in the Buncombe County or Asheville area of the state. But immediately after the storm subsided, some of these critical facilities looked at opportunities to function. And the one that was challenged and came to make the quickest decision was the hospital. And the hospital there immediately started drilling into create wells so they could have water. For those of us that don't work in the hospital world, they have to have water. They have to have it for cleaning. They have to have it for disinfecting. It's critical to them. So I was really impressed that they went ahead and did that immediately so that they could have that. Another really fascinating one was the university there. UNC Asheville worked with the Army Corps to build their own water treatment center there on campus, so they could get those students back, so they could get their employees back, so they could start to have some normal. They weren't waiting, in this case, for the water, to be available to them. They found something. And because of that, they've got that in place. The hospital has that in place. Other ones, and this is one that in my world is not uncommon, but if it isn't one you've heard of in your community, I encourage you to make sure those relationships are there. Before the storm hit, they worked with cellular companies, and they brought in these things called cows, which is not City of Wilmington. In this case, it is cellular on wheel. And they put them in critical spots in their downtown area so that they could continue to have cell service before, during, and after the storm. And it was and is critical to have those in place. The other thing that I saw that impressed me was the use of satellite internet services, be it through a Starlink, a Telestat. Any of these companies can do this thing, but it connected areas. When I arrived in Asheville a week after that, there was a particular town called Weaverville that we had zero contact with a week after the storm. So we deployed a satellite to them, and the next day we started having communications and things started to move. So having those satellites services in place, I think, are going to become a normal thing. And just getting into the weeds a little bit, you can turn off the service and don't pay for it when you're not using it, and just turn it on when you need it. So it has that advantage. The last thing I saw, which was kind of fascinating, was many of the buildings, the hotels, even restaurants started retrofitting plumbing so that they could handle tankers of water being their water source. So imagine a hotel and you can't flush your toilets and you can't do your showers, you're out of business. So they replumbed the thing so that they could take tanker water, and and it really has to be engineered, so you get the right pressure and so forth. But I was very impressed with these businesses that were finding a way to do that. Most of these businesses were doing that just to help with first responders, but they've got that in case it happens again in the future. So I share this knowledge in the spirit of the SCDRP core values of collaboration, learning, equity, and support, and highlight that in the face of challenges, we see extraordinary examples of human spirit, innovation, and collaboration. That spirit of partnership is why we're here today. The Southeastern Caribbean Disaster Resilience Partnership isn't just about responding to disasters, it's about transforming how we think and act. It's about finding sustainable solutions, leveraging local knowledge, embracing innovation, and working across boundaries to create systems that are flexible, inclusive, and robust. Each of you is here because you play a role in this shared mission. You bring unique experiences, insights, and skills that are essential to achieving our collective goal. As we embark on this journey together, let's remember the power of partnership. It's easy to feel daunted by the scale of challenges we face, but when we come together, we discover solutions that none of us could achieve alone. We create synergies, build trust, and unlock the potential to make a real and lasting difference. That's the magic of this partnership, and that's why I'm so optimistic about what we can accomplish in the days ahead. Finally, take a moment to enjoy this wonderful city. Wilmington is not only a place of resilience, but also one of remarkable beauty, culture, and hospitality. If you have the chance, explore the local area, stroll along this beautiful riverwalk right over here, visit our historic district. You really are in part of the historic district. Take in the coastal scenery that makes the city so special. It's a reminder of what we're working to protect and preserve for future generations. I want to thank you for being here, for your commitment to this vital work, and for bringing your passion and experience to this meeting. Welcome to Wilmington, and welcome to a time of inspiration, collaboration, and progress. Thank you.